I don't know, like sex clubs, I feel like people think you walk in and it's just going to be like an orgy happen as soon as you walk through the door. But I've been to lots of sex clubs across the country, and they're literally just clubs, and then you can have sex there. So what if I pull up and go off? So what if I pull up and choke ya? So what if I pull up and choke ya? You like that aggressive shit, don't ya? Like that aggressive shit, don't ya? You like that aggressive shit, don't ya? Like that aggressive shit, don't ya? How does it feel?
Have you ever looked at the friends list and wanted to know who these people are? Why you have, people in here that you don't even know?
No, I've never went through my list. I don't care enough. I don't think I have that many friends on Facebook anyway. But yeah, I mean, like my ex is blocked, and like I went out of my way to find my coworkers and block them before they could try to find me.
So you went in and proactively got rid of them.
Yeah, because they're my coworkers. We're not friends. Like,
fair enough.
But I do have old coworkers who are friends on Facebook that I fucked with. But like my new coworkers with my new company, nah, dog.
So my mom, she's always been hounding me, telling me that I need to settle down. I need to meet the right woman. And it looks like tonight I have the right woman. Who's able to join me for the Godcast. Go ahead, give yourself a round of applause. Yeah. What up? We have Shawn Wright with us here today.
Yes.
So I really appreciate you doing this. You could have been doing anything in the world, but you decided to drink a cocktail and shoot the shit. What are you drinking on?
I have a cucumber martini. It is effing cucumber vodka, some Saint Germain, some simple syrup, lemon juice, lime juice, some fresh muddled cucumber and mint, topped with a little splash of seltzer water.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, you're classy over there.
This is my favorite drink. I make it for myself at home all the time.
Okay. I got vodka and olive brine. It's a fake vodka martini is what I have.
Gross.
Yeah. No, you're not into the salty drinks?
I hate olives, so I would just never drink a regular martini. That's disgusting.
Oh, I fucking love olives.
Olives are gross.
I'm not sure I have the right woman anymore. We'll have to just gotta see how this plays out. But Shawn, in real life, I think we've had maybe like 5 conversations, and they've all been run of the mill, niceties, how you doing? Good to see you. All that, right?
Yeah. I
want to know about you. Where are you from?
So I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio.
All right.
Yes. I moved to Columbus in 2014 when I graduated. I went to Kent State, and then I graduated from college. And I got a job down here, like right out of college, making $12 an hour. Those big bucks that they promise you once you have a degree.
Oh yeah, big bucks.
Yeah, I was balling out of control with my $12 an hour. So then I've been in Columbus, I would say since, but I was in a relationship in 2016. So I moved to Pittsburgh for a year, and then that was a mistake. And so I moved back to Columbus in 2017.
Okay. So you had a Cleveland to Pittsburgh connection. I'm sure. Did you have any family members that try to disown you for making that move?
No, I don't really have a large family or anything of the nature. So me doing what I want to do is just a thing that's been my life. I've basically been on my own since I was 16.
Okay. All right. Doing what you want to do. I feel it. I remember the very first time that I met you. It was at the Improv Meetup Mini Fest that Anthony Windsor had put together. Mm-hmm. And I had just started. This would have been the second time that I was on stage after doing improv. and I saw you're in the lobby. You was all dolled up. They had the makeup and the hair and all that. And I remember, and I walked up and I was like, I see you, sis. I see you. You look great. You got, you know what I mean? You all crispy, all dolled up. And I just remember sharing a laugh or two. I don't think I saw you perform that day because I got there a little bit later, but I do very much remember meeting you at that festival. Improv. Mm-hmm. How did you get involved in improv? I'm always curious with Black folk. How did Black people hear about improv?
Yeah, because that's the whole thing. So when I first moved to Columbus in 2014, I got on the app Meetup, improv Meetup, and literally for years from 2014 to 2017, I was a part. Like I joined the Meetup in the Meetup group. I mean, in the app, but I never went to a Meetup. Like I just never went. And then I moved to Pittsburgh, and then I moved back. I was heartbroken, and shitty breakup, whatever. And so I'm like, fuck it. I'm back in Columbus. Let me just go to this fucking Meetup that I've been RSVPing to for the last 2 years. So I went, and I just had so much fun. It was something completely different than I've ever done. And I don't know. It was just like, everybody's like, we're here. We're just doing this funny shit. Join us. We're just going to laugh at you. Even if you aren't funny, we're going to clap for you. Even if you suck. Like, I don't know. And then I just started going every week after that. So I want to say I moved back April of 2017. So I was going every week for literally basically from April of 2017 all the way to the rest of the year. Like I never missed a Meetup. I was always at Meetup for the better part of 2017. And then January of 2018, we were at Meetup. And, after Meetup, everybody's kind of just hanging out. And, we're just talking. Then everybody starts looking out the window of Gresso's. Like, oh my goodness, somebody's car was hit. And I'm looking like, they looking where my car was parked. Oh. So I go outside, and some drunk driver hit the back of my car, push it up onto the curb, and then the front of it was smashed into a light pole. And this was like the coldest day ever. It was like freezing cold. It was snowing. And it was just like this whole thing. And I was just like, oh, I would be at Meetup and my car gets totaled. So then that was probably those couple of weeks after, that's probably the first time I had missed Meetup in a while. But yeah, that's kind of how I started and kept going.
Well, that's cool. Had you heard about improv in general before, when you saw the Meetup?
Not to the level that I know about improv now. I didn't know that it was this whole community in the city. I mean, every city has their improv community, but I didn't know that it was as many people. I didn't know it was just as large as it was. I had no idea.
What is your comedy DNA? What's funny to you? How did you go about just being funny? What's your...
That's the thing. I wasn't the class clown. I didn't think I was a person who was funny. In high school, I was a stoner. I was just high every fucking day. My parents had bought me a car when I was a sophomore. So I was driving basically the entire time I was in high school. So I was just waking and baking, smoking on my way to school, leaving for lunch, going to smoke, coming back. So I wasn't cracking jokes or nothing. I was just giggling all day because I was high. And then once I got out of high school and was okay, I'm in the real world now. I never did anything related to improv or comedy. I went to medical assistant school. I was working at Planned Parenthood. Then I joined the Army. Then I started college when I was 21. So it was I never did anything. I used to do poetry. So that's the thing. But I never did comedic poetry. My poetry was always about childhood trauma or racism or just shit being bad for a Black teenager in the city of Cleveland at the time. So I don't know, but I feel like when I needed improv, like it was the right time. I feel like if I would have started going to the improv meetup in 2014 when I first moved to Columbus, it would not have been, I'm not going to say as good. Like I probably would have met, people in the community, made friends, but I feel like I got into it when I needed it. Like I was fresh out of a super shitty relationship, moving back into the city. All the friends that I had in the city while I was here, most of them had moved away or we had stopped talking when I moved to Pittsburgh. And I don't know, I just felt like I really needed a release from my heartbreak and my depression and like starting my adult life all over again. So I don't know, I guess my DNA is trauma because I guess a lot of things in my life are connected to trauma.
Yeah. Well, no, that makes sense. I mean, I think comedy is a great way to metabolize that, like kind of the same thing. When you have these shitty moments in your life, it just feels good to laugh or make other people laugh or escape from that. So no, I feel that. I think that's interesting. I used to do poetry also. He was out there spitting that mad angry poetry.
I want to say it was mad angry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the height of my poetry career, I was on the National Youth Poetry team for Cleveland. So like PBS like sponsored me to go to San Francisco for a week.
Okay.
And we went to, what was the name of it? It was like Youth Voices. Like, I don't know. It was like this national poetry convention that happens. Well, at the time was happening every year. And like literally young teens, poets from across the world were coming to perform at this convention. And like PBS was there. They gave us money. They put us in this nice hotel. And I mean, and we were really up there just like spitting hot fire.
Okay. All right.
But I want to say my poetry was angry. It was more so like very adult. Like I had wrote a poem that I performed in San Francisco. And I don't remember the name of it. And I still have all my poetry like locked away in a file cabinet. But it was a poem about being raped by my dad. But that's something that's never happened to me. I've never been assaulted by my father or anything like that. But it was like very like into it. Like this is something that has happened to somebody. But I was speaking from a first person point of view. And I remember like after I was done, like wanted to say like 4 or 5 girls came up to me like separately, like crying, like, oh my God, like I relate so much to that. If you ever want to talk. And this was this was in 2006. So it wasn't no social media. It was just like, here's my number and my email. Like, let's keep in touch. Like, and I don't know, again, my poetry came from trauma that I didn't even experience. So I guess I'm just a trauma-filled person, I guess.
That's powerful stuff. You got tears from the crowd. I did some poetry and I think I did it a couple times for Ohio State. I did something for like Black History Month a couple times, but I wasn't getting flued out to PBS. So that's cool. I'd like to see some of that if you don't mind. Sometimes you share some of them bars.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was on the front page of the Plain Dealer. I was like, it was hot shit. And again, this was before social media. So I woke up to go to school and everybody was just calling me like, you on the front page of the newspaper. What the fuck is going on? Because I didn't tell anybody. I just was like, I'm doing slam poetry. Like this is like an extracurricular that I'm doing outside of high school. Like, but when PBS like was like, okay, we gonna take pictures of y'all and put y'all in the newspaper, I'm thinking it's gonna be like a little blurb on like, I don't know, whatever fucking arts and life section is in the Plain Dealer. But no, they put my cute ass on the front page and I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. Damn, girl. All right.
I'm gonna have to show you the picture. Yeah. It's really funny.
I gotta see it. I can't wait. You getting flued out by PBS. I know now, because again, out knowing you, I see you on, social media and you travel quite a bit. It looks like you travel for work a lot, right? Like, what do you do?
So I am a supply chain software consultant. So I travel to train people on how to use the software.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. So, and it's not like I'm traveling like to different places every week. So I started this new gig June of last year. So basically I got trained, and then beginning of August to the end of January, I was basically, I'm putting quotes up, stationed in Los Angeles, because that's where I was flying to every week. Or it got to the point where I just was staying out there for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time, because the flight from Columbus to LA is horrible. It's a 5-hour flight. It sucks. So doing that twice a week, that shit got real old. So I would just stay in LA, or I would like fly like to Seattle, or fly to San Francisco, or drive into San Bernardino. Like I was just doing stuff while I was in LA.
Right.
But yeah, so I was traveling to LA. And then once I was done in LA, then I started training in Chicago. And Chicago was a lot easier. That's only an hour flight. So I was flying home every week. It was a lot better. But then the corona was like, bitch, you thought. And so I want to say my job sent us home the weekend before St. Patrick's Day, because that week I was going to stay in Chicago for St. Patrick's Day weekend for the parade, to see the river get dyed green. Like, I'm like, oh, I've never kicked it in Chicago like this. Like, I'm going to just stay in Chicago. They canceled everything. And I was like, damn, this corona shit is really getting serious. But at the same time, because I was a person who was traveling every week, I was like, maybe this is just like being blown out of proportion. Like, it wasn't clicking, because I'm like, I travel all the time. Like, this is stupid. So I still stayed in Chicago. I still kicked it on St. Patrick's Day. Like, went out, kicked it, turned up. And then our job was like, yeah, we sending all y'all motherfuckers home.
You talked about obviously like some personal trauma, kind of tying this in with your travel. You seem to be like a lot into like personal health and like spiritual healing. And you don't just travel. I see you going to resorts. Tell me about some of these resorts.
Yes. So first off, it's very funny that you said it seems like I'm into like the spiritual healing shit. That is hilarious, because I am not.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But
I thought you was a little, so you're more Jill Scott than Erykah Badu. Did I put that in a wrong lane?
I mean, I don't think I'm either one of them. I feel like I don't know. I do my own thing. I'm in my own lane. And like someday I may feel like Erykah. Someday I might feel like Jill. Someday I may feel like Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi.
Okay. Yeah.
Shit. I mean, I don't know. It just depends.
All right.
But I didn't really start traveling until, again, after my breakup. So this was my very first adult relationship. So it was just like everything that I was experiencing was new. Like I was in like a really bad place. It was a really bad breakup. Like I started going to therapy and everything. Like I'm like, okay, like this is something that is going to affect the person that I am for the rest of my life. But I don't want this to be something that changes me for the worse. So like I tried to, just be proactive about what lessons am I going to learn from this relationship? Like, so the very first thing I did, enrolled in therapy, found a Black therapist, which was very important, because I started going to a therapist that was covered under my insurance, which was a white man who wore Hawaiian shirts and had like really, really gross feet that he wore sandals. And I was like, this ain't it. So
it was giving you more trauma.
Like, and he just was just not a good therapist. Like I'm sitting there telling him all these things that happened to me. And he was just like, okay. Like he was just listening. I'm like, I'm going to just talk to somebody. I could just sit at home and talk to my couch if I'm not going to get no response. But anyway, so I enrolled in therapy and I was like, you know what? I'm about to turn 29. I am going to go on a trip. I had my passport since 2012, never traveled anywhere with it. So I was like, I'm going to go on a trip. Like, I'm going to just go somewhere on the all-inclusive, because, I mean, I still ain't balling out of control, but I was able to move back, you know what I'm saying, get an apartment, get my job. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the Dominican Republic. Went to the Dominican Republic, and this was my hot girl summer before a hot girl summer was a thing. Like, this was 2017. So I got there, and I mean, you see my social media. I have an alter ego. Her name is Goodie.
Yeah.
And
Big shout out to Goodie.
Goodie was in full effect. Like, I want to say I got there around like 2:00 in the afternoon, checked in my resort, got dressed, was having dinner, probably like around like 6.
Right.
So by like 8, I had already made a friend and we were having a really great time. Like,
okay. Yeah.
I was kicking it, and I was there for 5 days. So I just had a really great time. I met a lot of people, and I mean, I was by myself. I traveled alone, and I had a really good time. And I'm like, wow, I'm single. I haven't been single in 3.5 years. Like, this is great. Whatever. I'm not thinking about this breakup that I just went through. That was super shitty. And then after that, I was like, I need to do this at least once a year. So the next year, when I was turning 30, and again, let's get back into the trauma that is me. Both of my older brothers died before they turned 30. So for a very long time, I didn't think I would live to see 30. So I kind of was a little reckless, like not really planning for any type of future because I was almost for sure that I was going to die. Yeah. So I still had in my mind that I was going to die, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the middle of the fucking jungle in Costa Rica and do drugs. So if I die, it's on my own terms and I'm high as hell. So
if you're going to go real close to God.
I mean, I was like, look, if this is what it is, I'm like, I don't want to do something traditional. I don't want to have like a turn up. Like, people turn 30 and it's like, ooh, turn up, you 30. But I was like, I want something that's going to be more memorable. So I did a lot of research and I found this ayahuasca retreat in Costa Rica. I signed up, I showed up, and I woke up on my 30th birthday on the side of this volcano and boohoo cried that I couldn't believe like that I was actually 30. We had 3 ayahuasca ceremonies. We did DMT. We did all these like medicinal, holistic drugs. And I mean, it was very therapeutic. It was also very scary, but I almost want to like go back again because it was such an experience. Like, you're in this jungle, they take away your phone, you don't know what time it is, like you don't have any books. They're just like, okay, you wake up when you want to, go to bed when you want to. We're going to do the ayahuasca every other day. We're going to do these other things like yoga and like, have these kumbaya moments, but literally you just like on this property in this jungle with these people from all around the world, and you just create these bonds. You're there for 8 days. They feed you the best, freshest food you ever going to eat in your fucking life. Like, oh Lord, that food was good. It was just an amazing thing. And the one thing that I tell people, to me, that was the most amazing was on the property, there's a dog. Like, it's a family there that runs this retreat, and they have a dog, and the dog's name is Raph. And like, we were like, oh, we want to go down to the river or whatever, to the waterfall. And they were like, just ask the dog to take you. And we was all like, what? And they were like, just tell him to take you to the river. And we was like, Raph, take us to the river. And this dog literally took us down to the waterfall. And it was like a 20-minute hike, like down the side of this volcano, this mountain. And he literally he would stop and like look back and wait for us to, catch up to him. And then he would like go a little bit more. And it was like, that's just the place. It was like a place I can't even have ever imagined that it would have been. So like, I was like, okay. So I did like the turn up travel, and now I've done this like whole opposite end. There was no alcohol. We were fed vegan. We did these drugs, but I mean, it was not like, all right, y'all, let's just turn up and get trippy. It was like, I was seeing shit from like having memories from when I was a baby. Like, it was really, really wild. So
I've heard about the DMT, and one of my friends actually was talking about it. As you said, extremely therapeutic, and because he dealt a lot with depression, and there was another ailment and he like had tried a couple of things. And so he said that was great. He said he felt like it kind of helped, center him, kind of helped him get out of the big, like I guess basically he explained it as it was in a deep rut. And he said like doing that kind of allowed him to snap out of it. And then from there, everything else has just been like general maintenance, which I thought was interesting. I've considered it, but I don't know. I'm a big pussy. When I hear people like seeing a bunch of terrible things, I'm like, I don't want to see that shit again.
Yeah, I mean, again, I did it 3 times. So the first night that we did it, it was like, oh, this is this fun experience. Like, this is great. And then the second time we did it was on my actual birthday. And it was scary as fuck. Like, I was just like, oh my, like within like the first 30 minutes, I was like, oh my God, I have like 12 more hours of this. Like, I was in a really bad place. But then like the shaman came over. He was like fucking running, like walking around me. It was sage and like doing all of that shit. And like after that, like I threw up and I started feeling a little better. But then like the shit that I was seeing was just like, it was just so emotional. And like I was like it was like an emotional roller coaster. So like the next morning when we finally woke up, it was a guy there from Germany. And like the first night, he had like a super bad trip. So then I remember talking to him and he was like, yeah, I don't know. This is not what I expected. So then that second morning, I understood what he was talking about from that first time. So I was talking to him again. I was like, I think I get, he was like, yeah, I'm not doing the third ceremony. He was like, it was worse than the first one. And I was like, fuck. And so when he said that, I was like, damn, do I want to do the third one? Like, I was like, I don't want to see some more crazy shit. But I am glad. I mean, but then I was like, bitch, you paid all this money to come and do these drugs.
Right.
You gonna do these fucking drugs. So, and I'm glad I did it because it was completely different than the other 2 ceremonies. Like they had us outside. We wasn't in the tent. And it was like, in America, it was the blood moon. But in Costa Rica, the moon was blue. Like it looked like a fucking blue Skittle. And it was just like a whole completely different experience than the other 2 ceremonies. Because other 2 ceremonies, we did them in like this little teepee tent thing. And it was a whole other environment. But that third time, it was like, okay. And I did see some scary shit. And like, I'm looking out to the jungle and some of the trees looked fucking scary. But then I'll just like look up at the moon and be like, no, the moon is like a bright light. It's protecting me. I know that sounds crazy right now. But like, that's what I felt like.
Right.
Yeah, that shit. I mean, if you ever want to go, I definitely recommend the place that I went to because it was, they took really good care of us.
I really appreciate you talking about therapy because I think for Black folks, we, for some reason, don't acknowledge that therapy is necessary. So like I've gone to therapy as well. Dealing with some of the things that you dealt with, like growing up or as you've gotten older in doing that, what, as a Black person, what was the catalyst? Because I feel like Black folks who always look at it as like, oh, you don't need therapy. You need to get yourself right with the Lord or whatever.
Oh, fuck like, that.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, nah, bro, I need to go talk to somebody, man. Like,
I need like actual help.
Yeah. So how, like, what drove you in that direction?
So when I was younger, like when I was in middle school, my mom had me and my mother had a very tumultuous relationship. But I was adopted. So my mom was like a much older woman. And I don't know, we just bumped heads a lot and we just, like, she was still my homie. Like she was supportive, but she was also, I feel like she was just like emotionally just not really prepared ever in her life to truly be a mother. So with our relationship being as tumultuous as it was, she put me in like anger management. But at the time, like when you tell a child you're in anger management, I'm going to approach this as like, I don't think I'm angry. But when I think back on now as an adult, like I was just truly in therapy. Like it wasn't like, I don't think of it as like, oh, I was truly an angry child and I needed anger management. I just think that me and my mother didn't know how to communicate. So we were seeing this woman to help mediate our relationship. So that was like my first dose of therapy. But I did that for like a year, and then my mom got sick, and then I just stopped going. Like it just kind of stopped. And I don't remember ever feeling like I got any tools or anything from it. But with my last relationship, it was a very toxic relationship. It was emotionally and physically abusive. So once I got out of that relationship, I was like, wow, okay. I was just with somebody that I loved and I thought I was going to be with forever. And like I made all of these sacrifices. I quit my job. I gave up my apartment. I moved to a different state. And I didn't want to be one of those people who walks away from a bad situation and be like, fuck anything that's related to this ever happening. Like, oh, I don't ever want to be one of them women like fuck men or whatever. Right. So I was like, I definitely need to work through this and make sure like I'm walking away from the relationship with things that I know that I don't want in my next relationship, things that I will accept, things I'm able to compromise on. And me just being by myself or talking to my friends who are not licensed clinical counselors, I wouldn't be able to really decipher through those things. So my therapist was, again, I went to that first white guy. That was a miss. So I literally just Googled Black women therapist Columbus. Yeah. And the first therapist that popped up, it was like her specialty is depression, women's rights, relationship issues, like just everything. I was like, okay, this is what I need. And I remember like signing up to get my first session with her, and she sent the link like, okay, fill out this paperwork or fill out this online form. And it was like a long form. Mm-hmm. And it was like asking me all of these questions, like things I never thought of, like stuff about things that happened in my childhood, things that happened to me. Like it took me maybe like an hour to get through it. And like while I was like typing up responses to some of the prompts, like I was like getting emotional and crying, like, wow, I haven't thought about this, or even this hasn't even crossed my mind. And I remember coming to my first session and she was like, thank you for filling out the form. It is a lot. I was like, that's why I'm here, girl. Please help me. Yeah. And that was June of 2017. And I've been seeing her since. And when I first started seeing her, I was seeing her every week. And now I'm to the point where I probably see her maybe maybe every other month or every 2 months. So I haven't seen her since February. But now I feel like I don't need to see her. Sure. Which is, that's, you want to get to that point. Yeah. And even during therapy, when she was like, okay, you don't need to see me every week. I was like, I felt like she was breaking up with me. Like, what do you mean? She was like, girl, you do not need to talk to me every week. She's like, you are using the tools I gave you. Like, you are figuring it out. And I was like, damn, you're right. But still.
Having a white counselor is, I think the biggest thing is they don't necessarily have the same experience, you know? Yeah. So I was like talking to this guy, and, it's one thing to be, a white Jewish guy dealing with, difficult things, but then it's something else when you're a Black man or a Black woman dealing with these things, it's, it's not relatable. On top of the particular incident that you're dealing with all this other shit. You know what I mean?
It's just those nuances that, like, one of my favorite things that ever happened in therapy was right after Beyonce's Homecoming came out. Of course, we in therapy, we talk about it because it's Beyonce. And so when Beyonce was in the movie, she was talking about she was basically not eating anything for 6 months to get skinny, to get prepared. And I was like, that diet is so crazy. Talking to my therapist, I'm like, what was she eating? And then my therapist was like, our wigs, like without missing a beat, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no way that I would have got that same level of rapport, you know what I'm saying, with the white therapist that I was seeing before. There's just no way in hell.
Yeah. No, you can't. You can't. But speaking about Beyonce, that's a great segue, because the first time I met you, you were super fly, and in following you on social media, I see you and you always fly, from the hair to the makeup to the outfits to the shoes. What's your style, Shawn? How tell us about your style.
I don't know. It's just like whatever I feel like that day. Like, yeah. I don't know. I don't think I have a particular style. I mean, I definitely dress different at work than I do in real life. Like, yeah. I'm wearing purple hair with purple eyebrows. Yeah. Like, I would never go to the office that way. You got to do your code switch. But right. Also, I mean, however I feel, do I feel fat this day? Do I feel skinny? You know what I'm saying? Do I want to have my titties out? Do I want more leg? Yeah. It just depends on my mood, or if I have a goal in mind, like, okay, and put these titties up because I know I'm about to be at a bar and I'm about to be bent over. So it's like, let's just have them,
Let's get some free drinks.
That part. Yeah. Or it's like, okay, I know my booty looking real good. So let me, wear something that showcase the booty. Like, I don't know. I try to dress comfortable because, I mean, I've been, in the situations where you feel like you look good, but you get out the house and you just like, oh, I hate what I'm wearing, or I feel underdressed or overdressed. So I always just make sure like I feel good in what I'm wearing before I leave the house.
Kind of tying those two things together. I've always thought that you're a person that just kind of like oozes a lot of self-confidence. Like, why do you think that is?
Because I don't care what other people think about me. It's not my business.
Yeah.
Like,
fair enough.
I mean, if you're not signing my checks, I don't really care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There are, particulars where, yes, I do need to care about the impression I'm making on this person. I'm doing a job interview or whatever the case. But in normal everyday life, I don't care.
Okay. I know that you also do a podcast, Shawn. What does it take for me to be on your podcast? Wait. Yeah, you're on my podcast. How do I get on yours?
I think that the process for my podcast is over with. I think that there will be no new episodes. I think that's a wrap.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, you got opportunity to plug your podcast. What you want to tell? You want to tell the millions and millions of listeners of the Godcast? What's your podcast?
Oh Lord. Okay. So again, my alter ego, her name is Goodie Pussy Yum Yum.
What up, Goodie?
And she is this sexual goddess that is unstoppable. And I wanted to create a podcast that at the time I didn't think was like any other podcast. Yeah. I mean, I had the thought for a very long time, but I just never knew what it would be or what it would look like. So once I figured out what I wanted it to be, I started Intercourse Interviews, which is podcast where I interview people that I've had intercourse or intercourse adjacent sex with, and just really just talk to them about the nature of our relationship, the nature of the sex, things of that nature. So I released 5 episodes last year. But even before I released them, I had been sitting on those episodes for almost a year. Like those episodes were so old because I was like, I want to maybe record a few before I start releasing them, which I did. And then it just came to a point where I'm like, all right, I want to get more content, but like my content is at the mercy of people that I've had sex with. Sure. And they're like, you're weird as fuck. I'm not getting on this podcast with you, or they're in a relationship now.
Right.
One guy that he's a pastor, so he was like, I'm definitely not doing your podcast. And like guys who like I was with and I pegged, they're like, nope, we're not getting on there because I don't want you to bring that up.
Yeah. But now, wait a second. You kind of just rolled by that real quick. You said guys that you've pegged.
Yes.
What exactly is that, Shawn?
Pegging is when a man is penetrated by a woman wearing a strap-on.
Whoa. Okay. I see. Yeah. So they don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, they don't want to bring that up. I mean, in my experience, the men I've been with, I mean, I do have an episode with a man that I pegged. We talk about it in detail, but in my experience outside of that, men are typically embarrassed that they enjoy it so much or that they even agree to do it. So like that's just been the whole thing. But I mean, the episodes are still out there. Intercourse Interviews is on everything. And I do have actually one more episode that I have not released, and it's with the guy who I lost my virginity to. I don't know if I'm ever going to release it because I feel like if I just release one more, then I don't know. I just feel like that's not fair. Like it needs to be more. So I don't know. I don't know if it's ever going to come back, if I'm ever going to do more episodes, but it is something that I created that I'm proud of and is out there for consumption.
Okay. Now it is pretty cool. I've actually listened to a couple of episodes, and actually I think that was the very first episode in your series.
Yes.
Peggin' Joe.
Yes.
Is with the that was some interesting stuff. I did see there was one you went to a swingers club.
Yes.
The sex club.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that at?
Thank you for listening to the Godcast. This part of the conversation is none of your damn business. We'll be back to you in approximately 10 seconds.
I do have an episode where I went to a sex club with a friend and her roommate.
I've actually been to sex club myself. I went with a couple of friends and they had gone pretty frequently and they were like talking about it. It's like, all right, well, let's roll. So I didn't do anything. I just went and peeped it out and kind of walked around and just was picking up the vibe. But I was just surprised that I was like, man, this is way more chill than I would have thought.
I don't know, like sex clubs, I feel like people think you walk in and it's just going to be like an orgy happen as soon as you walk through the door. But I've been to lots of sex clubs across the country and they're literally just clubs and then you can have sex there.
What you want to talk about?
You said you had a list of questions.
I mean, we've been going for about an hour for what it's worth. So I think we've been getting it. Like I said, a lot of the things without having actual conversations with you and even some of the other people, just like, man, these people look like they're doing interesting shit, and the COVID-19, not being able to see you out at some of these venues and not being able to have a conversation. So I just thought like this was, kind of a way to still be social and do this type of shit.
Yeah. I mean, now I'm home. I'm not traveling, but it's like, damn, I'm home. I can't even, we're still doing like hashtag shows, but like that was a big thing that I was missing being on the road. I wasn't able to perform. And it's like, okay, now I'm home. We still ain't the same.
Right. How do you feel about doing like the virtual improv? Because I fucking hate it.
It's just not the same. Like, especially with the show that I'm on, like you'll want to sit down for this. Like, our show is a storytelling show where we improv the stories. So not being able to really do that improv part, that's what I miss. Cause the rest of the team, they've been doing shows the last 7-8 months that I've been on the road. So it's like, damn, like I'm home. I don't get to do the same things.
Right.
And I've watched a couple groups do shows virtually. And it's just, I'm not going to say it sucks, but it's definitely just not the same. Like,
no,
you miss those laughs and I don't know. It's just not the same.
It's really difficult because you're not getting the audience feedback. So I
Right.
think that's one thing. I did watch your show, the storytelling. You'll want to stay home for this, and that format was cool because you guys were just telling stories. I've actually seen some groups, I think like Nest and some other places, and they're doing like full out like improv scenes, and it's just clunky. And it's difficult because you can't look at your partner in the eye and, vibe where they're going. So it's not, I don't think it's not their fault. It's just the medium is really difficult. Tell me about your time in the Army. How long were you active?
I was never active duty. I joined the National Guard in 2009. And then I joined the reserves in 2015, and I just re-enlisted for another year, literally last week. So I'm at 11 years total.
Oh, okay.
And at this point, I'm just taking literally year by year, just to see. So I just re-enlisted to next April. It's like, okay, we'll see what happens next year. Well, we'll see what happens next year. But I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do my full 20.
Okay. Well, big shout out to the troops. I want everyone to know that the Godcast supports the troops and the troops support the Godcast. That's why we have Shawn Wright on this show. I could never do it. Like I couldn't do basic because someone shouting at me and, making me, do push-ups and all that PT. I ain't built for it, man.
I mean, if I could go back to basic tomorrow, I would. I was in the best shape of my life, and I took it for fucking granted because I came home and got fat immediately. But I don't know. It's just like I was never athletic. I never did played any sports or anything like that in high school or nothing like that. So like the first time that I got there and they were like, run 2 miles and you need to run 2 miles in 18 minutes. And it took me 27. Woo! I was like, oh Lord. Like I was just like not soldier material, not physically on paper. Like, oh, you're a smart girl, whatever. But when it came to like the physical stuff, I was like, oh my Lord, I got to carry this gun around everywhere. It's 8 pounds. Oh my goodness, so heavy. I got to wear this 50-pound backpack. Oh my Lord, I got to wear these heavy ass boots. Oh my God, it's so hot out here. Like it was just the worst. But that shit goes away within like the first 3-4 weeks. First month you're there, you like, fuck, like this is it. Like I'm here. And like, I just have to fucking finish this shit. So, and I remember like having conversations with some of my battle buddies, like, are you starting to feel brainwashed? Like that this shit is like, super hood army, like super speed. And we all like, yeah, like this shit, I'm starting to like it. And I'm like, this is something else. I was not expecting this.
Yeah. Shawn, you can cook.
I can. I'm an excellent cook. Yes, I can.
I just want to put it out there. There's a difference between cooking and making something to eat. All right. You are cooking. What is it? Yeah. Yeah. How'd you get into cooking?
When I was growing up, my mother didn't teach me how to cook. She would always have me bake. So it was like I was always like making cakes and brownies and shit like that. And then once I got my first boyfriend in high school, his mother, like she was a cook. Like she would be like, all right, so make some neck bones. Okay, we got some oxtails. Okay, I'm making steaks. But she was like a hood cook. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like hood cook. Like she would cook just that good ass, like black ass food. Just don't give a fuck about the caloric intake, the fat content. We ain't caring about your macros. This some good ass food. We don't care about your blood pressure. None of that. And watching her, because I was with my first boy, we was together for 6 years. We was actually engaged. So watching her cook. So when me and him lived together, I was like, I need to cook like his mama cooked because this is what he used to. And so I was doing that good ass home cook, black ass food every day. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then once I was in college, living on my own, out of that relationship, I was like, okay, let's take a little healthier approach to this.
Right.
And I don't know, I just kind of figured my way out from there. And now we got the internet, we can see recipes. So I'm looking out for recipes and shit like that. But I can throw down.
Yeah, you can throw down. I've gone back. When you said you didn't like olives, I wasn't sure if you're the right woman, but we're back on. You are in fact the right woman still. But yeah, no, that's cool, man. How do I get invited to one of these Sunday cookouts, Shawn?
I mean, this is the thing that I used to host brunches all the time, but then I started traveling. So like that just went away because when I'm home, I'm not about to fucking be cooking and hosting. So, but I guess once the pandemic's over, and
we're friends now, Shawn. We're friends.
Right. And mean, hopefully, I can, I doubt that they're going to have us back traveling because they're saving so much money without us traveling, and we're still able to do our job. So I might host another Sunday brunch because my brunches get super litty. Like everybody just come over, we eat, we get drunk, turn up, eat real good.
Okay. All right. Well, since you're not having the podcast anymore, I can't be a guest on the podcast. I just want to be a guest of the brunch. I think that's a good compromise. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're obviously a very like free-spirited person. What's some of your guilty pleasures, Shawn?
Guilty pleasure. So I don't know if this is a guilty pleasure, but like when I'm on my period, I love to drink wine and cry at movies. But I don't know if that's just like my period routine, but I just love to drink wine and cry. Like it makes me feel so much better, but only when I'm on my period.
Is this red wine?
Yes, Cabernet.
Cool, Shawn. Yo, I really appreciate you taking your time in doing this. I had a great time, and I thought it was great to get to know, someone that I've seen. And, next time I see you, we're friends now. We're friends.
Yes, we are friends now. Thank you for having me on. This is fun being on the other side of the podcast.
Shawn, you got to check out Affirmative Distraction. You got to come. When you get up and running, there's food trucks. So it's like a big community thing. The last 3 shows, 125, 135, 130 were the last 3, sellouts. I'll give you the info. You got to come check out one of these shows because it's fun and it's so different. Anything else? Anything you want to get out there?
Yeah. I mean, you can follow me on Instagram at The Right Woman. That's WRIGHT at The Right Woman. Also on Twitter at The Right Woman. And I'm also in #comedy. We do have our virtual show. So go to #comedy.com/events and you will see what's coming up next. So we have a show coming up on Wednesday. So be there for that.
All right. Absolutely. We will check that out. But again, thank you, everybody, for listening to the Godcast. You could have been anywhere in the world, and you decided to spend your time with me. I'm The God Show, and of course, Shawn Wright. We're out of here.
Peace out.
Peace.